There once was a little clay man named Leo. He lived in a quiet, dusty workshop, a place filled with forgotten projects and the gentle hum of creativity. Leo was simple. He had a round body. He had 2 small arms. He had a heart full of simple dreams. His world was the wooden shelf he sat upon, looking out a window at a garden just beyond the glass. Every day, he watched the sun rise. He watched the sun warm the petals of the flowers. He saw bees dance from one blossom to another. And in his small clay heart, a dream began to grow. He wanted to feel the sun on his face. He wanted to touch a real flower. Leo's biggest dream was to stand in that garden. It was more than just a wish. It was a deep longing that filled his days. He would imagine the feeling of soft grass beneath his feet. He would imagine the sweet smell of roses in the air. From his shelf, the garden was a world of vibrant color and life, so different from the gray dust and shadows of the workshop. He wasn't made for grand adventures or heroic deeds. He was just a small, simple creation. But this one dream, this desire to be part of the living world outside, gave his simple life a beautiful and powerful purpose. He would spend hours watching the gardener, a kind old woman with gentle hands. She would lovingly tend to her plants, watering them. She would lovingly tend to her plants, pruning them. One afternoon, the sky turned a dark, angry gray. The wind began to howl, rattling the old workshop window. A storm was coming, a storm unlike any Leo had ever seen before. The wind pushed and shoved against the glass, making the whole shelf tremble. Leo held on as tightly as he could, his clay body shaking with fear. He watched as the beautiful garden outside was whipped into a frenzy. Flowers bent low, their petals torn by the fierce gusts. A stack of old, forgotten clay pots teetered on the edge of the shelf above Leo. Before he could even understand what was happening, one of the pots came tumbling down. It fell directly towards him. There was no time to move, no place to hide. The pot struck him with a heavy, dull thud. The world went dark for a moment, and when he could see again, he looked down and saw the terrible truth. His leg, one of his 2 sturdy clay legs, was shattered into tiny pieces. The pain was not physical, for Leo was made of clay, but the pain in his heart was deeper and more real than any physical wound. His dream was broken. How could he ever walk to the garden now? How could he stand among the flowers with only 1 leg? Despair washed over him like a cold, dark wave. Days turned into a week, and Leo remained motionless on the shelf, a monument to his own shattered hope. The dust began to settle on his broken form, and the vibrant garden outside seemed 1,000,000 miles away. He had given up. One morning, the workshop door creaked open, and the kind old gardener walked in. She had come to inspect the damage from the storm. Her eyes, full of warmth and wisdom, scanned the room. She noticed the shattered pot on the floor, and then looked up at the shelf. Her gaze fell upon Leo, and her gentle face softened with compassion. She saw his broken leg, and the deep sadness that seemed to radiate from his small, still body. She didn't see a broken toy. She saw a broken spirit. She saw a little heart that had stopped dreaming. Slowly, she reached out her hand. Leo flinched, expecting to be swept away with the other broken things. But her touch was incredibly gentle. She carefully picked him up, holding him in the palm of her hand as if he were the most precious treasure in the world. Then she did something unexpected. She took a tiny tube of strong glue from her apron pocket. With the focus of an artist, she began to carefully, lovingly piece his broken leg back together. As she worked, a single drop of the clear glue fell from the tube and landed on Leo's chest, right over his heart. It felt like a teardrop, but it was warm, not sad. In that moment, something shifted inside him. It was a tiny spark, a flicker of warmth in the cold emptiness. This small act of kindness, this gentle repair, was a whisper of hope in the silent darkness of his despair. It was a message without words that said, "You are not forgotten. You are not worthless. You can be whole again." The glue took time to dry. Leo had to remain perfectly still. His stillness was not one of despair. It was patience. It was renewed purpose. His leg was whole again. A faint, jagged scar remained. His first attempt to stand was clumsy. He wobbled. He fell, a gentle thud on the wood. In the past, this would have crushed him. Now he remembered the gardener's gentle hands, the warm glue on his heart. He pushed himself up and tried again, and again, and again. Each fall was not a defeat, but a lesson. He learned to shift his weight to balance on the uneven leg. He made friends with a small spider spinning a web in the corner. Silas watched his progress and offered quiet encouragement. One thread at a time, Silas would signal, showing how great things are built from small, patient efforts. The other clay figures, once silent, began to notice Leo's determination. They saw his struggle and they saw his refusal to quit.
You are very brave. You can do it, Leo.
His solitary journey became shared. He was no longer just broken, he was an inspiration. The day finally came when Leo was ready. He had walked the length of the shelf 1,000 times. He was strong. He was determined. With his new friends cheering him on, he made his way to the end of the shelf, which overlooked a stack of books piled up like a staircase. It was a long way down. Taking a deep breath, he began the slow, careful descent, one book at a time. His friend Silas the spider even spun a single, strong strand of silk as a safety line, a testament to their bond. The journey across the workshop floor was the longest he had ever undertaken. Dust bunnies looked like giant monsters. A fallen pencil seemed like an impassable mountain. But Leo kept going, his eyes fixed on the sliver of light coming from under the garden door. Finally, he reached the door. He squeezed through the small gap for the first time, felt the soft, cool grass beneath his feet. The air was filled with the sweet perfume of roses and damp earth. The sun was warm on his face, just as he had imagined. He had made it. He stood tall, his scarred leg a symbol of his incredible journey. He looked around at the towering flowers and the buzzing bees, and his clay heart swelled with a joy so pure and overwhelming that he felt he might burst.